Hey YouTube, Mike here. How are we doing today? Today's video is a video that I was expecting to do a little bit further on in my series of videos, but after what I found out on Saturday, I felt that I wanted to do this video sooner. Today's video is going to be on the table saw safety. You know, the reason I bought my saw stop is someone that I know injured two of his fingers, 24 years as a cabinet maker. Saturday while I was in the Home Depot, I saw a contractor that told me that a guy that works for him that has over 30 years experience severely injured his left hand. So, I mean, that's two injuries of seasoned workers within 3 months. So I felt that let me go over some of the basics table saw safety. Okay, first thing, you purchase this table saw, whether it's brand new out of the box or you're getting it from a friend, a relative, off of eBay or Craigslist. Read and understand the instruction manual, and that goes for any tool, whether it's a table saw, miter saw, a drill. Read it. Read the instruction manual and read the safety manual. They were written for a reason. If you purchase a used saw, and the person happens not have the instruction sheet, you got a 99% chance that you're going to find it as a PDF on the internet. Or call up the manufacturer and just say, listen, I got this saw, where can I get the manual and the safety manual? They'll most likely be more than happy to send it to you, and if it costs you a few dollars for shipping, it's well worth it. So learn and understand the safety manuals. And I do read through almost every single manual. Maintenance of the saw. I did a video of the top, keeping the top clean. And that's very important because it's going to make the pieces that you're pushing across the saw glide across it. But you got to maintain the rest of the saw, keeping it clean inside for dust, whether it be a cabinet saw and it collects inside of the cabinet, underneath or around the saw of a contractor saw or a portable saw. The belt, the motor, the bearings, the handles, the lift, the tilt, all of that. The blade guard, the insert, keeping that clean, removing it, cleaning it out. That's very important because all of that affects the operation of the saw. Okay, basically, we all know the parts of the saw. We have the blade guard, we have the insert, you have the blade, you got the handles, you got the miter track, you got your fence. Okay. Danger zone of the table saw is between these two rails. There's a reason that most inserts are painted red. Danger. You build an insert, you buy an insert, paint it. Hit it with a light coat of red paint. Hit it with a magic marker if you build one out of plywood or that material that you can build inserts with. Zero clearance inserts, very important. It prevents those pieces that could be a quarter to a half an inch falling between the blade and the insert and then coming back at you. Because there's two forces that are acting with a blade. The blade is spinning, and for this purposes, my saw is totally unplugged. The blade is spinning towards you. As you're feeding the wood through, the blade is spinning in this direction, it's pushing the wood down. As you get to the back of the blade, it starts pulling the wood up. That is a classic case of the kickback when you're cross-cutting and it binds between the black of the blade and your fence. So those are the forces. So what's going to happen is this thing is going to get kicked back at you. That's why it's very important to have a zero clearance insert inside of your table saw and even your miter saw. The blade guard, extremely important. Now, a blade guard protects 5 directions: forward, back, down, left, and right. But as you're feeding something under, the push stick is a piece of wood. As you're feeding something under, the blade guard has to lift. Well, if your hand gets there, the blade guard is going to lift. The blade guard doesn't know if it's your hand or the piece of wood. So the blade guard will lift. There's a chance of you getting hit with that blade. Okay, so keeping the saw clean, your danger zone, where to position yourself, because when you're feeding, you're feeding 3 different ways. Your pressure is 3 different ways. In, down, and to the fence. So you have to maintain that. When you get over to the back, this saw wants to lift up. The wood wants to lift up because the saw blade is coming this way. So that's one of the reasons that you have the pawls, but you also have the pawls to prevent kickback. Okay, an outfeed table, very important. Whether it would be the pieces that extend off of some of the portable saws, you have rollers, you have that thing from Rigid that flips, or just a regular table. A table prevents you from reaching over and stabilizing that piece of wood where you're now so much closer to the blade than you really want to be. So you can then feed this across and it'll go out onto the outfeed table or whatever you have to stabilize it. And I know a lot of guys, I'll go through it and I'll push the piece of wood. No. Because now you lost total contact, all that pressure, and you end up just making that piece of wood do something that you don't want it to do. Steady across onto the outfeed table. Okay, we're going to go with the 2 basics, the push sticks. You want to use a push stick. Anything that is less than 3 inches from the blade to the fence. A push stick, then I have 2 different versions here, and you see me using this one mostly. This one I like to use when it's very close and I have to get across. But I use this one all the time. It always sits on top of my fence. A push stick extends your reach from around 6 inches to 12 inches past the blade. Okay? I'm still standing in the same direction and I'm now past the blade. Push stick is very important. Featherboards. Featherboards are very important to keep these pieces with the pressure up against the fence. I prefer the magnetic one than the one that you have to adjust inside the track. Magnetic one just lays down on top, turn the 2 knobs, and now it is locked on there, and you ain't pulling that thing off for nothing. Push blocks. Standard push block. There's a reason that the push blocks are angled, so that as you're pushing, your pressure is taken in that direction. This one is angled in and out, so your pressure is going in that direction. I like this one because of the drop-down tongs there. Then you have the new gripper style. Now this is just put together so it fits in my drawer, but this thing, after reading the instructions, you go through them. A blade can pass through it. It's multi-function. It could be used not just for the table saw, it could be used for the plane. Now, your riving knife, your splitter, locks into the back. It is to the right of your blade. Basically, as you're feeding through, the kerf of your blade is expanding and causing now this to open up more. That is preventing kickback. Whether it's one of those little tiny insert ones, or just a knife that fits into the back, or the one that's built onto the actual saw blade guard that will move up and down with your raise and lowering wheel. Very important. The pawls too. The pawls can lock out of the way. I leave mine down all the time to prevent kickback. If you have a tiny piece of wood and you need to cut it, you cut it on the bandsaw. A little tiny piece of wood between here, whether you're using 2 push sticks. I mean, don't use anything like a knife or a regular piece of wood. Use something that was dedicated, made with a notch in it, so that you have control of where you're going with it. All right? It's okay this way, but this way you need something with control with a notch in it. Now, hold down. They make, Jessam makes wheels that will hold down. You can also use a screw clamp between the fence. I'm not going to open it up, but just put it down as it gets down. Now that is just a hair. Let me lift this up so you can see it. This would be just a hair, and of course it's not going to be the small one, you'll be using the larger type. But this will be just a hair above the piece of wood, preventing the piece of wood as it gets back here from lifting up. You could use one of these. Very simple. Okay. So we went over, miter gauges. Miter gauges that come with the saw. This miter gauge came with the saw. Fits into the miter track. Put your piece of wood, you mark it. Nice and easy, push it across. Then you have these larger ones. This one is by Osborne. This one I could remove this part, put it onto here, which will extend this out. I do have the sliding saw, the sliding table for this saw. I just need to get it on and find a few hours to do it. But very safe, keeps everything away, no binding off the fence, fence is out of the way, and you push that right across, cut your board for cross cutting. A sled. I'm in the process of making a sled, which I'll be making a video on, but a table saw sled. Now, fits inside the two rails, put your board across, clamp it, run it through. Very safe way of doing it. Okay, so I think we touched on, safety. You know, in the beginning of all the videos, safety glasses. Very, very important. I mean, you get kickback, something kicks back, hits you, it could break your nose, break a teeth, give you a cut, but at least with safety glasses, it's going to prevent you from getting blind. And your hearing protection, which is mentioned on all the beginning of the videos. All right. Maintenance and changing of the blade. When I change my blade, and it is also very important to keep your blade clean. I have two blades. I rotate my blades every week. I buy saw stop blades. I put a new blade in, I take the other blade, I have a bucket, I have a solution, I clean it, I scrub it, I let it soak for a few hours, I scrub it again, dry it off, and let it hang, and then I put it back, and that's what kind of like I rotate. You know, what you could do with filters. Clean one filter, put another filter in. That's what I do with my blades. Every week, I swap out my blades. Now, just to let you know, I've been using a table saw for quite a lot of years. I still have not put in the dado. I have not did the dado insert. I have not put a dado cartridge in. I want to get used to the saw. I want to get a memory, a muscle memory of how the saw works and listen to how the saw sounds. Now, you're saying listen to how the saw sounds. I don't always wear my hearing protection because I want to listen to what, if it sounds different, I'm going to hit and move out of the way. Your switch. A lot of the switches have these, what they call knee shutoffs. So as you're feeding through, if I have a problem, I can hit it with my knee. You can actually build a foot or a knee shutoff, which is just a piece of wood with a bolt through it, with a rubber end, and a hinge that goes to your fence rail. Screw it to it, and it flops off the floor. There's a problem, you can kick it, which will shut the saw off. I believe in unplugging the saw. I don't remove just the little yellow safety. I unplug the saw. I find that the extra couple of seconds, and if I can find this thing, I find that the extra couple of seconds to plug it back in is worth the little couple of extra feet I have to walk to do it. I use this saw basically to rip. I do a bit of cross cutting on it. Once I get the table on, I'm going to do some cross cutting on it. So you got all of that. You got the maintenance. You have all the safety pieces and what to do with changing it. Now, a little bit of first aid. Let me just grab my first aid kit. This you've all seen what I keep in a Sustainer 1. This thing I actually keep behind it. It's a trauma blanket. It's a huge piece of gauze. Okay, injuries, Injuries with table saws. Statistics show that it is actually more of the seasoned workers that have injuries than hobbyists. It happens more so at night and after someone has eaten. They keep these statistics. The hospitals ask, and you could look it up online. In my first aid kit, besides the Band-Aids and the tweezers and the cold packs, I keep a lot of gauze. Gauze is very good for packing the wound. First thing, if you injure yourself. Now, a cut, a splinter, but a sufficient injury that you're bleeding quite a bit. You want to get something onto the wound and get help. Whether it be somebody at your house, a neighbor, someone on the street, to get help, to get the first responders moving. Even if you are by yourself, get on your cell phone, dial 911, and really all you have to say is, I got hurt. And if you pass out with enhanced 911, which is all throughout the United States, and pretty much the world now, they'll track you to where you're going. And the police that will show up first are all first responders. So at least they can get you, start treatment on you. But you want to get a compression and pack and elevation on that wound. Now, I keep a stuff from Z-Medic called Quick Clot. I used it extensively in my first responder when I was a fireman. Basically what this stuff is gauze that's impregnated with a chemical that actually stops bleeding. But you have to leave this or let them, if you're conscious when the first responders show up, you have to let them know that you use this. Because when they get to the hospital, there has to be a different treatment. I keep what they call an Israeli bandage, which is a large gauze with a strap that actually can act as a tourniquet. But between the gauze, wrapping it, packing it, wrapping it, packing it, I mean, if you have rags in the shop, use the rags. With antibiotics, they'll shoot you full of that stuff. Any infection pretty much at the hospital will go away. But you want to get that thing packed, you want to get it stopped, and you want to get it elevated. Someone's here to help you. Get it up, sit down, get it up in the air, especially if it's a hand injury, and get help moving to your house. Okay? All right, YouTube, I hope this was informative, and if this bug doesn't leave me alone, it's going to need an ambulance. I hope this video was informative, and I hope you never, ever, ever have to use the last part. Okay, YouTube? You all have a nice day, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.